And through those offerings, we become purified. That is the beautiful lesson of Surabhi Kund. Jagai and Madhai. Dina hina yata chilo harinam utharilo tara sakshi Jagai Madhai. Jagai and Madhai were such sinful people, so cruel. With their own hands they would slaughter cows and cook them and eat them, and what to speak of other animals. They would rape innocent women. They would murder Brahmins and other people. They were always taking all kinds of intoxications. They were egomaniacs. But Lord Nityananda Prabhu, the original Guru, Balaram, they even tried to kill him directly. And Lord Chaitanya came to punish them. But like Surabhi, Nityananda Prabhu, he saw that Madhai was repentant, or Jagai was repentant. And he prayed, please forgive them. Please accept them. They want to change. They're willing to surrender. And by the grace of Nityananda Prabhu, Lord Chaitanya gave them pure, unalloyed devotional service. So after Indra was forgiven and was really humble and happy, then he wanted to show all the people of the heavens. He wanted to prove himself before. Now he wanted to show all the devas that he's the real Indra, Krishna. And Brahma, Shiva, Anantadev, and all the great sages and rishis and devas, they all assembled to perform an abhishek for Krishna. And the heart of the abhishek was Surabhi. She offered her milk to bathe Krishna. And seeing this loving exchange, Krishna was given the name Govinda. He who gives pleasure to the cows, to the senses, to the earth. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was here in Vrindavan 500 years ago, after leaving Mathura with this Sanodiya Brahman, he wandered to the 12 forests. He came to Madhuban, Talavan, Kumudavan, Bahulavan. And then he approached Aritagram. And it was there, sitting under a tamal tree, that he discovered Sri Radha Kund and Sham Kund. It was just little puddles in a paddy field. And the Brijabasis of that area, they didn't think anything of it. It was just an ordinary puddle in the fields to them. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was inquiring from so many people, where is Radha Kund, where is Shama Kund? And nobody had any idea. But he found it in the most ordinary place. And Krishna, in the mood of Sri Radha, as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, bathed in that pond. He sang beautiful hymns in glorification of Sri Radha Kund. and took the mud and placed 12 tilaks on his body. Then he went to Kusum Sarovar, and he took his bath there. And from there, he had his first vision of Govardhan Hill. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains Lord Chaitanya, in the mood of Sri Radha, is seeing Govardhan Hill as the body of Lord Krishna. He embraced one of the stones from Govardhan Hill in ecstatic love, weeping tears. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the town of Govardhan. And on the banks of Manasi Ganga, to the Haridev temple. And he saw the beautiful Murti of Haridev, form of Krishna that was installed by Vajranabh, the great grandson of the Lord himself. And this form of Krishna, he's Giridhari. He's lifting Govardhan Hill with his left hand. And Lord Chaitanya offered beautiful prayer. May that Lord, Shri Giridhari, who is lifting Govardhan Hill with his left hand, always protect us and give us shelter. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in great spiritual joy, began to dance for the pleasure of Haridev, with his arms raised, loudly calling out the holy names. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing with such joy. His beautiful golden form was exhibiting such love, such compassion, that everyone from all the villages in that area, they all assembled together at the Haridev temple along with Lord Chaitanya, and everyone raised their arms and everyone celebrated the joy of their eternal souls chanting the holy names. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then bathed at Manasi Ganga, and then at Brahmakund, which is close to there, Balabhadra Bhattacharya prepared prasad for him. And the next morning he performed the Govardhan Parikrama. And after he did the Govardhan Parikrama, he came to Govinda Kund. And he was remembering his Param Guru, Sri Madhavendra Puri. It was there at Govinda Kund that Madhavendra Puri discovered Gopal, Srinathji. And Gopal was installed on the top of Govardhan Hill. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his Radha Bhav, in his love of Sri Radha, was yearning and longing for the darshan of Gopal. But Lord Chaitanya, in his humility, he didn't feel it was appropriate to put his feet on Govardhan Hill, which is the body of his beloved Krishna. So he simply sat in separation. At that time, Gopal, who understood Sri Radha's love, he made a plan. some villagers came to the village of Anakuta Kshetra, where Gopal was on mountain. And they said, there is an army of Turkish soldiers that are coming to attack your village. Every single person leave and take Gopal with you and hide. So immediately, the whole village was evacuated. Everyone left. And secretly they took Gopal to another village called Gantuli, and they hid him there. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this, and he went to Gantuli, and there he had beautiful darshan of Gopal. And for 3 days, in the presence of Gopal, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cried in ecstatic love, dancing with all the other devotees, chanting the holy names. And then the news came that there never was any Turkish soldiers. It was a rumor. So they had a procession to bring Gopal back to Govardhan. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was right in the presence of Gopal, chanting and dancing until Gopal came to the foot of the hill. And as soon as he ascended the hill, Lord Chaitanya offered his Dandavat pranams and continued his beautiful pilgrimage through the 12 forests of Vrindavan. During the last 12 years of Lord Chaitanya's manifested pastimes in this world, in Jagannath Puri, he stayed in a little room called Gambhira in the house of Kashi Mishra. And there he was absorbed in the mood of Sri Radha's love, in separation of Vrindavan. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami tells, when Krishna left for Mathura, and all the gopas and gopis were in deep separation, Krishna sent Uddhava to pacify them. And when Uddhava came to Uddhavkyari near Nandagaon, and he saw the nature of Sri Radha's love in separation, Uddhava realized, I don't have any love at all. It was that mood of Srimati Radharani when Uddhava came to Vrindavan that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was constantly feeling while he was living in Puri. He was seeing Vrindavan everywhere. One day, Lord Chaitanya was going to bathe in the sea, like any other day. He happened to see a sand dune. Now in Jagannath Puri, there's so many sand dunes because the sea, so many winds are coming and makes little mountains in the sand. But Lord Chaitanya saw this one sand dune, Chatak Parvat, and he saw Govardhan Hill. Just the remembrance of Govardhan Hill that sand dune created with him. He was seeing Govardhan Hill. And he was walking. And suddenly, he began to run. He recited this beautiful prayer from the Srimad Bhagavatam of Srimati Radharani and the gopis praising Giriraj as the best servant of Krishna. Haridas Varaya. And as Lord Chaitanya was running to Govardhan Hill to embrace Govardhan Hill, he was running at the speed of wind. And Govinda, his personal assistant, started running after him, but he was left way behind. And Lord Chaitanya, he was crying the holy names with such feelings that the other devotees could hear it, and they saw him running, and they didn't know what to think, so they all started running. Swarup Damodar Goswami, Jagadananda Pandit, Gadadhar Pandit, Shankar Pandit, Ramai and Nandai, and everyone was running after Lord Chaitanya, but they couldn't get near him. He was so fast, so enthusiastic, so eager. And as they were running, Lord Chaitanya passed Paramananda Puri and Brahmananda Puri, or Brahmananda Bharati. They're very elder. They are the disciples of Madhavendra Puri, the godbrothers of his guru. So they started trying to run, but they couldn't catch up with him. And then there was a Bhagavan Acharya, a very senior devotee who was kind of crippled. And he started trying to run to follow. Everybody was running after Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya was running to Govardhan Hill, oblivious to anything of this material creation. And as he was in his eagerness to be with Govardhan, he came to a state where his ananda, his ecstasy, reached such a limit. He was running the speed of wind. Suddenly, he stopped, as if he was paralyzed like a pillar. He couldn't move. Every pore of his body erupted like a big flower. And every hair on his body stood on end like the petals of a kadamba flower. And from his eyes, like the river Ganga and Yamuna, tears were flooding. And suddenly, his whole body became as white as a conch shell. And he fell to the ground with no sign of consciousness. And the devotees finally caught up with him, and they saw him in that state. Govinda was bathing his body because it was covered with sand, and he was fanning him. And when Swarup Damodar Goswami and Gadadhar Pandit and the others reached him, in his ear, all together, they were calling out with such feeling the holy names of Krishna. But nothing happened. So they chanted. Please understand, there was no consciousness. There was no symptoms of life that were present in his body. What was the mood in which they were chanting? Louder and louder, with deeper love, tears pouring from their eyes, with such emotion, they were crying out the names of Krishna. After a long time, he came to external consciousness. What Kaviraj Goswami explains, semi-external consciousness. And he looked around, And devotees were all around him. And he turned to Swarup Damodar Goswami and said, "Why have you brought me here? I was at Govardhan Hill in Vrindavan, and I saw Krishna, so beautiful, with his peacock feather, playing on his flute, playing with the cowherd boys, herding the cows on top of Govardhan Hill. And I was seeing them. And then I saw Krishna go to a secluded place and play his flute to attract Srimati Radharani and the gopis. I was there. Krishna took Srimati Radharani into a beautiful cave. And the gopis, they came to me and said, "Please pick flowers for Radharani to offer Krishna." And I went to start picking flowers at Govardhan Hill, and suddenly I heard this loud noise of all of you. You have taken me away from Govardhan Hill and brought me here. Why have you done this? And Swarup Damodar Goswami explained everything. And then Paramananda Puri and Brahmananda Puri came. And they are like the gurus of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in a very respectful mood, he came into his complete external consciousness. And he asked Paramananda Puri, "Why did you come here?" And Paramananda Puri said, "We have come here to see you dance." And in this way, they all went to bathe in the sea. And then he returned to his abode. This was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's absorption in Vrindavan. In this regard, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains these ecstatic, loving emotions, Radha Bhava Duti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam, of Krishna in the Mahabhava of Sri Radha, are most difficult to understand. They are the highest topics. They are the very essence, culmination of all the scriptures of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But if we hear from the proper sources with humble hearts, in the mood of the servant of the servant, understanding how fallen and small we are, then hearing these beautiful topics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the role of his own devotee, not only will by his grace we can get some understanding of that love, but he will give us that love. Once Lord Chaitanya was sleeping. He didn't actually sleep. He was laying down on the floor of the Gambhira. And he had a dream. In his dream, he saw beautiful Shamsundar playing upon his flute. And with the love of Sri Radha, he was giving his body, mind, words, life to the beautiful form of Govinda Dev. And because of this beautiful vision, he appeared to be oversleeping. So Govinda, his servant, awakened him. And he took his bath and went to Jagannath temple. And there he was standing just beside Garuda Stamba, seeing the beautiful forms of Baladev, Subhadra, and Jagannath. But he was seeing the same form that was revealed to him in the dream. He was seeing Krishna in his threefold bending form, standing before him, playing his flute. There was large crowds in front of him in the Jagan Mohan, the Darshan hall. And suddenly, a very old, simple Odishan woman, she was small in size. She was so eager to see Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra, but she couldn't see over the crowds and crowds of people in front of her, so she began to climb on the Garuda Stamba, and in the process, she put her foot on Lord Chaitanya's shoulder and was standing on top of him, holding Garuda Stamba, seeing Jagannath. Govinda was quite disturbed. He said to the lady, "This is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You're standing on him." And she didn't understand what she was doing. So she felt really guilty, and she got down and she bowed down to Lord Chaitanya, and she was begging forgiveness. Lord Chaitanya did not chastise that lady, but he did chastise Govinda. He says, "You uncivilized man, why did you disturb this lady?" She was so eager to see Lord Jagannath that she was oblivious to everything in this world. Why did you disturb her darshan of Lord Jagannath? And then he prayed to Lord Jagannath. Lord Chaitanya prayed, "Oh Jagannath, please, I pray, bless me with the eagerness that this lady has to see you and to serve you." And then Lord Chaitanya prayed to that lady, "Please bless me with your eagerness to see and to serve the Lord." This lolyam, eagerness, is such an important part of our devotional service. Lord Chaitanya is the crest jewel of sannyasis. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Navadvip, he was Nimai Pandit who conquered in debate Keshav Kashmiri, the world champion scholar. And yet, he's giving such honor, such profound appreciation to a simple, illiterate old lady that nobody in the world knows. And he's praying that he could have what she has from his heart. When Srila Prabhupada was living at Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, he would sometimes tell the story. He'd be in his rooms and he would see every morning a very old, simple, poor Bengali widow who would carry a bucket of water from Yamuna and just put it in front of Radha Damodar's altar. Just before the pujaris were going to bathe Shri Radha Damodar. And the pujaris would come out and take that bucket of water and use it for the abhishek. Nobody knew who she was. She was unknown. But even after Srila Prabhupada established temples all over the world, even after Srila Prabhupada translated, wrote purports to the essence of all the Vedic scriptures, and tens and millions, hundreds of millions of these books were being distributed. Even after he traveled and spoke with scholars and priests and heads of state, and had tens and thousands of followers, he was remembering that lady, her eagerness to serve. And in Yamuna Devi's book, A Life of Unalloyed Devotion, she tells the story. She heard the story of that old lady from Srila Prabhupada, and she met her. She would regularly spend time with this old Bengali widow who didn't speak a word of English. Because Prabhupada appreciated that eagerness to serve, that eagerness to love. And that is a true symptom of a Vaishnava, that Srila Prabhupada is not only living, but he's teaching us how to genuinely appreciate the devotion in the heart of someone. And how, if we can learn to appreciate, then by Krishna's grace, we will be given that eagerness. Srila Prabhupada taught us the highest principles of prema bhakti and how to achieve it in such practical ways. A way of truly expressing our devotion is to perform our sadhana and our seva with enthusiasm, with eagerness, for Krishna's pleasure. I remember once in a very large gathering, Srila Prabhupada was on a stage and he opened his discussion for questions. And someone asked, what if we don't feel enthusiastic? Srila Prabhupada said, you act enthusiastic. That's seva. Seva is not just about how we feel. Seva is how we want to please Krishna, how we want to please Srila Prabhupada, how we want to please the Vaishnavas. And our enthusiasm, if it is done properly, with that desire to please, that will please. We become empowered by our eagerness, by our enthusiasm. And one of the greatest services we could render to one another is by our own example. Because anybody could complain. In Kali Yuga, we think ourselves really heroic and powerful conquerors of the universe when we could find faults with other people. It's actually like that. Anybody could find faults. Anyone could complain. But how to be enthusiastic? Enthusiastic to bring the light of Krishna into our own hearts and into the hearts of others. Enthusiasm, eagerness is contagious. When we're eager to chant the holy names, when we're eager to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, to read Srila Prabhupada's books, to preach Krishna consciousness, to receive Krishna consciousness, to cook, to clean, to distribute books, to serve the deities, to serve the Vaishnavas, to take care of our children as behalf of Krishna, to perform our duties or our work and offer the fruits of our actions to Krishna. Whatever we may be doing, we're doing it for Krishna. So we should really be enthusiastic and we should really be eager. Because Lord Chaitanya appreciates that eagerness so much. And Prabhupada will bless us so much for that eagerness. So on this most blessed day of Govardhan Puja, let us offer our gratitude and let us pray for this eagerness to hear, to chant, and to serve. Thank you very much.